What's up, everybody? Tricky Guys Podcast. Double B here with you. Brent Bilski. Double B is my little nickname there. We are going to get into a lot of things today, especially the Ja Morant situation. Holy Lord. Or as they're calling him, Ja Warrant. I heard that nickname. That's pretty funny to me. Rolling solo today, but that's all right. Got a lot we want to discuss very quickly. So just so you know, I am, again, Brent Bilski, Double B. I am a former award-winning radio host. I am also a All-State former basketball player. JUCO national champion. You know, got a few things. Got a few things I can do.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Try to take my word that basketball and I are something that are copacetic, as well as a lot of other things you'll find out that I am right about, as we will discuss today. Like I said, the Ja Morant situation only continuing to get more of a headache. The 2-game suspension may now be indefinite. The homeboy showed an Instagram video with a gun, and there's a pattern here. If you don't see the pattern, you're really either young or you don't want to hear certain things about why. It's not a good situation. It's not a good situation. It's the idea that you have to keep to a certain persona or a certain level
when keeping it real goes wrong.
And there's, for some people, that's good enough. I think for Ja and the Memphis Grizzlies especially, there's a lot more to be told. But first of all, let's get into what's going on right now in the NBA. Lots of good stuff going on. Playoff race right around the corner. Kind of keep you up to date with where we are at in the season. I'll start off again. Milwaukee Bucks, to me, are without a question, if you don't fear the deer and think that they are the number one contender currently, as far as no injuries coming up, no big surprises, I got the Milwaukee Bucks right now the favorite to win. I know a lot of people have picked Phoenix and a couple other, obviously Boston out east. But let me just tell you again one more time, the Milwaukee Bucks are 46-18. They're now up 2 in the Eastern Conference, where home court is going to matter, because to me it only comes down to 2. The Eastern Conference, Philadelphia, great game, had, a nice bright spot, just beat one of the contenders, and Harden and Embiid did their thing. I'm not even saying that is wrong, but in order for them to win a 7-game series against Milwaukee or Boston, I think Embiid and Harden would have to stay, especially not just consistent, but they would have to go extremely high up. They would have to do a lot extra than the other teams require, because I don't believe as much in their bench, in their consistency, and everything else. Milwaukee Bucks are ready to go. They've won 16 of their last 17. They're 27-6 at home. They are currently going to get home court advantage, which is a big deal when you consider it was Milwaukee-Boston going to last year, and Game 7 was decided at the home court, which then led to the finals run. Right now, Chris Middleton, this is the big thing for me with the Milwaukee Bucks and the NBA contenders, is that this is no longer a Giannis, even though they were able to do this, although Middleton was a big part of it. Giannis Antetokounmpo does not have to be everything, especially offensively, all night anymore, and neither does the reliance on Chris Middleton as the second scorer. If you haven't been paying attention to what's going on, Milwaukee Bucks currently have Chris Middleton been off and on. He's coming off the bench, only averaging about 13 points a game. He's the 5th leading scorer on the Milwaukee Bucks this year. And he's only shooting less than 30% from three-pointers right now. And they are still beating the snot out of everyone they have come across. They've won 16, again, of their last 17. They don't need Herculean efforts, and that's why I like them so much. Besides their immense size, besides their three-point shooting, which they have a lot of shooters now, this is not a top-heavy team, and come playoff runs, I think that is huge. So keep looking out for the Milwaukee Bucks, and even Giannis Antetokounmpo, out of his rabbit-ass mind, I don't know if y'all saw, tried to get his own little triple-double at the end of the game, was able to just throw it off the backboard, and they did rescind that because that was complete nonsense. That was just, come on. But Milwaukee is doing their thing out there, and I still got them as the number one. If you aren't betting Milwaukee, if you are a bettor, not that you should, gambling is a slippery slope, but I would still put Milwaukee first. Boston Celtics right underneath, and oh boy, They have had an interesting little slide lately, whether it's Jason Tatum getting ejected. They are still 45-21, but again, 3 L's in a row. They, to me, need a lot of help as far as making sure they got home court advantage. And the game the other day, in case y'all missed it, this is just the mental. I love how much when you get to the NBA, so much of this is mental. So much more of this is what you got up here, which is why when we get into the Ja story, that's what it is. I mean, there's talent can only get you so far. So Cleveland, who is a pretty decent contender, shout out to the Cavaliers. I don't know if I believe that you have a chance against Milwaukee or Boston in the 7-game series, but they have been doing a lot lately. Donovan Mitchell doing his thing. You got Garland, Mobley. You got a nice squad out there, and put up a exciting double overtime, or maybe single overtime win against Boston. But the end of the game, Grant Williams of the Celtics, who should be very key along with Derek White and other bench players if the Celtics can make a run. The last 0.8 seconds in the game gets fouled. It's a tie game. And so Donovan Mitchell, right before he goes up to the free throw line, gets in his ear and, starts talking a little trash, talking a little smack. This video is hilarious. You got to see Grant Williams tries to get cocky, tries to get cute, and whispers out, I'm going to make them both. Going to make them both. Let's see how that went.
Can hit one of these free throws for the Celtic lead. Oh, here we go. Williams for the tie. Missed it. Tipped. No. How do you like that?
It's rough sometimes. Because you want to project that confidence, but I don't even, the talky. Sometimes you don't got to talk, you just got to do. And so mentally, I wonder sometimes. Boston, new head coach this year, they have had, they're up and down. So in the Eastern Conference, I still got Milwaukee as the favorite. Boston Celtics, again, showing a little signs of maybe fatigue or just, the pressure getting to them a little bit. Philadelphia, I will mention this. Philadelphia 76ers have been looking better. James Harden has been an exceptional point guard this year. 20 assists again last game they played in a victory, along with Joel Embiid getting 40 points. So that is only the 5th duo. In case you didn't know this, the Philadelphia 76ers are going to be very heavily reliant on 2 guys, but those 2 guys, pretty freaking good. You look at the 76ers right now and what just happened. So Harden had 20 assists, although he got kind of gift-wrapped at some of those assists. I don't like the new NBA's way of, you can't, one dribble maybe. If I pass you the ball for a recorded assist, to me, you have to at least, one dribble's the most. Usually, from what I remember back in my day, when they still had the short shorts and the Converse. But if you made a pass, one dribble, 2 steps at the most was an assist. I saw some of those assists. And homeboy was catching the ball, whoever received it from Harden, taking 2-3 dribbles, 2 steps, then a basket. And they still gave the guy the assist, but it's the NBA, it's the new league. They like big numbers.
Whatever, I'll do what I want.
It's cute. But the 20 assists for Harden and Joel Embiid's 40 points in the same game, they've now done that twice this season. That is only the 5th duo ever to, in multiple times in the same season, have a point guard record 20 assists and another teammate score 40 points. So just do the math. That's 80 points between 2 guys. 76ers have a puncher's chance out east. I'm not going to sit here and dismiss them completely, but if you ask me, it goes Milwaukee first, Boston, we'll see if they can make them both when it matters. And 76ers are just a little top-heavy with 2 guys who have injury-prone issues and also mental. They're just a little sometimes. So that is my run for you out east. Now, out west is much more interesting. The Western Conference continues to be divided. The 3rd place to 13th is around 4 to 5 games total, which I have never really seen. And which is, again, why some of these teams like the Memphis Grizzlies, Ja, who we're going to get to in a little bit. Jesus Christ, dude. But this is a perfect year to try to push yourself into that upper echelon. If you're one of the mid-level teams out west, with everything going out the way it is, there is a good chance for you to get a home court maybe you won't get in either, the way the past in the Western Conference has been set up, a little more top-heavy versus now. There's a lot of opportunity out there, and it's just become extremely competitive. But still, the Denver Nuggets, I've talked about this before on this podcast. Again, basketball, you got to trust me, I know this pretty well. We're really just looking at the logo and at the two-time MVP, possible three-time MVP and Joker, and why we don't believe them. There's really not much else other than they don't pass the eye test.
Because I'm white. Because he's white. Because he is white. Look at him, man. What you want?
We can say what we want. Jokic is a big, slow, ugly, goofy, fundamentally sound, not exciting white boy. You have the Nuggets logo, which for its entire franchise history has been just an underwhelming, underperforming, had some cute little runs in between, but nothing of significance. So you look at that and you go, Denver Nuggets, whatever. Jokic, whatever. Does he really deserve the MVP, or is it just because,
It's all right, because it's all white.
the Steve Nash effect, as I will call it? Although I can argue till my head is blue why Steve Nash might have deserved those MVPs, although, of course, Shaquille, you shouldn't have got him. But the Denver Nuggets, just to remind you just how good the Denver Nuggets really are this year.
Let me enlighten you about your new friend here, about what he's really like.
There is legit zero reason to not pick the Denver Nuggets coming out of the West. Other than I don't like them. I don't like the big slow white dude as their leader. I don't like the Denver Nuggets logo. I'm not used to seeing it doing well. Therefore, I'm just not going to believe in them. There's really not much else you can say. They are currently first in the West by 7 in a very, very close Western Conference. They are heads above the rest. 7 games with only, 15, something around there left to go. They should get home court throughout the entire Western Conference. And oh, by the way, at home, they are beasts. They are 30-4. They have won 30 out of 34 games at home. Their road record does leave a lot to be desired, but who gives a crap? In the end, they are most likely, unless they just have the biggest fall, that makes no sense or correlates. I don't think they've had even close to a 7-game losing streak, well enough to blow a 7-game lead out west in the first place seed, to blow home court advantage where they are 30-4. Jokic, whether we like it or not, whether you think he deserves it or not, is on his way to his 3rd MVP. It's just the way things are. You can make arguments for Embiid. You can make arguments for other people. Luka, record not needing what it needs to be. Jokic is now the 3rd. So, to review, first place, 30-4 at home. They're going to have home court. They now probably have the 3-time MVP in a row leading the team. They are big. They are deep. Jamal Murray has come back to play well. Aaron Gordon's had a resurgent year. Michael Porter Jr. finally away from his injuries and is starting to really round into form. They got guys like KCP Brown, who are good 3-and-D guys. They got a bench. They have the advantages. They have the first seed. They're going to have the arguably 3 years in a row best player on their team, who is very good at making other people better. Yet when we talk about who we think is going to win the title, who brings up people besides people out of Denver? And even then you probably think they're just probably high, just smoking out what they do in Colorado.
I love weed, okay? I love it.
I don't know what else you got to do, though. Denver Nuggets should be your first seed. Now, Phoenix, obviously, with Kevin Durant, have really come into their own. So let's give a little love to the Phoenix Suns. Now won 3 in a row with this new lineup. Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, Devin Booker. You got Ayton as well, putting his pieces in there. The Phoenix Suns are the Vegas favorites to go out there and win the West. I really don't like betting against Vegas. Their ability to get things right is pretty freaking remarkable when you consider everything that they can do. But right now, they're not going to have home court advantage, hardly even probably close. Now, they're 3 games out of second. Let me retract that. 3 games out of second place, so other than if they play Denver, they would have maybe home court advantage. KD and the Kyrie Mavericks was an interesting game the other day, or as I call the Mavericks, the Donkery Show. Not really rounding out to what Cuban has hoped so far, but a interesting rivalry when these guys were just teammates 2 weeks ago and now are starting to play each other. KD was clutch. He played defense. And the big thing you got to remember about Phoenix with this new lineup, that is to me the most significant thing that is happening if you are a Suns fan, is the fact that Kevin Durant, when Booker and Paul are now on the bench, Kevin Durant by himself, well, not by himself, but as the leader of a unit, was able to increase leads while they were on the bench. That is beyond significant because now they can stay. I've even done this against guys who play me on 2K if you play against this team. They can stay consistent waves, and that is something that's important, I think, in playoffs. You don't want to have to be run heavy, which is why one of my favorite teams, unfortunately, is probably not going to be able to do what they need to do because they're just too inconsistent. The consistent push and having offensive threats along with some of their role players and defensive guys. Phoenix Suns got a lot to love. They're in the honeymoon phase currently, which helps when you got guys like Durant and others who can be a little prickly, let's call it, as far as if you try to keep them long-term and keep them happy long-term. But right now, they just got together. They've won 3 in a row. They're looking great. Shout out to Phoenix. You are right there with Denver as the most likely I've got coming out of the West, especially now with their ability to rest guys like Booker and Paul, especially Chris Paul, who's going to, let's just face it, gets hurt a lot and is going to need it. Golden State. I have to mention Golden State because they are the defending champions, and the continued excuse for my favorite team is that just wait till they get healthy, just wait till this, just wait till that. Andrew Wiggins now still out with this mysterious family issue that they just do not want to touch. Andrew Wiggins has been out 3 weeks now, what with just was told as personal reasons. We don't know. They won't release any information. But Golden State, I just got to see this live. I just came back from a trip to Los Angeles. I got to see the Warriors-Lakers game that just happened live in person, and everything I fear about the Warriors is it's just coming out, and it's becoming more and more obvious. You guys are too goddamn small. Warriors are too small. And it's not necessary anymore. I've said it in another podcast, and I'll say it again. The idea of small ball and the benefits, you no longer need to go small to play small. And unfortunately, they are just not understanding this concept. There are 7-footers now in the league. Look at the teams that are doing well. Teams like Milwaukee, teams like Phoenix. Durant's really not a center, but I mean a true 6'11", 7-foot guy. Look at Jokic. Look at what Denver's doing. Look at the top teams. Look at Sixers. I mean, without fail, now that I think about it, I mean, other than maybe Boston, but they have guys like Robert Williams and others. There are 7-foot, or at least 6'9" and above. The Warriors' entire lineup now is 6'9" and under. You are too freaking small, and it's unnecessary. There are 7-footers, or at least 6'10s and above now, who can come out and, because the Warriors on defensively, they want to switch a lot. Pick and rolls. The beauty and the idea of small ball is that you can't get into isolations and mismatches because we can switch out everything. We got a lot of 6'7", 6'8 guys who can play multiple positions, and we can guard anybody. And you know what? That's fantastic. But in today's league, you have guys who are taller than that who can do the same things. You have guys who are now 3-and-D guys at extremely bigger heights that can do things like switch out and guard a 2-guard or a point guard, at least for a possession or two on a pick and roll to where you don't have to overcompensate your other wings defensively to leave people open. You can play small with bigs. I know that's a weird oxymoronic play on words, but you can use bigs and you can play small. This is a lesson I really think Golden State has to learn. I love them. They're my favorite team to watch. Shout out Steph Curry, Klay Thompson having the best year of his career. Jordan Poole got his bag after he got punched in the face as having an inconsistent but good year. DiVincenzo's playing extremely well. They're going to get Gary Payton back. And all this other stuff, none of it to me in the end as we see the season play out. And mark my words that I'm the one who told you. And just so you know, I am right to the point of boredom.
Man, I'm tired of being right.
And look this up. especially just the Lakers game. I just saw it live. Anthony Davis put them to work. You are too small in a league now with a lot of big athletic guys who can do all the things that you guys do. And, oh, by the way, protect the rim. Get some offensive rebounds. Every time the Warriors lose, I want you to look for two things. I want you to go to the team stats, look up rebounds overall, especially offensive rebounds, who won the offensive rebound battle that night, and who won the points in the paint battle that night. If you really want to think that I'm full of it, go check the box score. The Lakers, as usual, when the Warriors lose, beat them in those two categories. Offensive rebounds, points in the paint. Size matters. You're too damn small. And for that reason, I don't give a damn if Wiggins comes back happier than he's ever been. I don't care if Steph and Clay are healthy. I don't care that they have, a good bench that's starting to figure things out. In the end, you're going to get beat up. You're going to get bullied. And I don't trust you in a 7-game series. The last team I want to discuss, and we'll just get into it, the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, this is a team in Memphis that really is just real man of genius. You are right there and you're blowing it. If you're a Memphis fan, if you're a Grizzlies fan, going all the way back, maybe you're one of those that, came down from the Vancouver and really went for this underdog small market team. The season has been laid out for you to make a run. Again, nobody trusts Denver. Nobody trusts the first seed. You are currently in the second seed. You have been cruising. You have been doing extremely well. Even with some injuries to Adams and others, you've been able to consistently hold a second seed in a very competitive West. You're starting to lose that, by the way, if you're the Memphis Grizzlies. You're second, but not by much, by 1.5 games right now. If you're keeping an eye on the record and you're going, obviously, in the wrong direction in a year you really could have been a la the Houston Rockets when Jordan was retired. This could have really been a special year, and unfortunately, your star just had to keep it real.
When keeping it real goes wrong.
And I don't really know what else to say about this Ja Morant situation other than what I'm going to tell you now. You see patterns. As you get older and you get wiser to things going on, all the bitching, all the excuses in the world does not change the fact that usually players that are showing me signs of just playing with fire, just poking the bear, just doing things to tempt the universe to try to punish you. We now have what happened in Memphis. In case you're new to this, Ja Morant has not been just suspended for 2 games. He's going to be for longer. It's an indefinite suspension because he put on himself. He snitched on himself showing an Instagram video with a gun. After everything that just happened. So, Ja Morant, this is in the last podcast. I'll bring back, hopefully my boy Tony will be here to discuss this. I'm trying to tell you I am right.
See, I done told you.
People want to say it's haterade. People want to say it's this. People want to say it's that. In the end, patterns and things usually play out, especially if nothing is changing. Just because something hasn't happened to you yet, or anyone you know, if you know anyone in your life that's currently in a weird path, or in a what you consider a negative kind of spiral in the wrong situation, unless there's a change, that pattern will eventually lead to something significant. A week ago, we were discussing how Ja Morant was in a couple situations involving either guns or security issues or a fight or, all sorts of little things. And every time there's been an excuse, and every time we kept saying, well, he's done nothing illegal and, he's just a young kid. Excuse. Now it's officially bit them in the ass with this last one. This was officially about as dumb a thing as you can do if you're Ja Morant. He did it to himself. No one told him to put this Instagram live video. Colorado police are now investigating. This is no longer just an NBA Memphis Grizzlies situation. Ja Morant, when he put this video online, has now put himself into legal repercussions. He has put himself in league repercussions that no longer the Grizzlies can try to pretend and hide with just a 2-game suspension with the little press release and press conference. I'm going to go work on myself and all that. We have gotten past that point. You screwed up. You blasted yourself in another state on Instagram Live with a flipping gun.
I ain't got a good brain.
In case y'all missed it, we got it. Here's the video. So in case you don't know what's going on, Instagram Live, Saturday morning, Ja Morant after having issues with the new kid alleging 17-year-old that he beat him up, after he was accused of bringing a crew of like 9, 10 deep and making threats to a security guard because he had to, defend his mama, which a lot of people want to say is cool, but to me, I mean...
No kind of saying this, you're wrong. Mama's right.
Still rolling 10 deep and threatening people's a bit much. After the Indiana Pacers incident where security staff or Pacers staff said after there was a altercation that they saw red dots looking like laser pointed, on your gun, the laser sights being put on their window. After all of this and people starting to really get wise to like, Ja Morant might be going the wrong direction.
When keeping it real goes
Ja
wrong.
Morant might be putting himself in a situation that he doesn't need to be. This ding-dong decided to post this video of him with a gun at a club in Denver. Look at this nonsense.
Hey, Dr. Reed, man, that's it, man. You don't go to the man, you're mad, man. I said, where is not all? Whatever it is, and I get the evidence, drop you be there.
Doing his thing. Doing his thing.
I got money.
That's it.
Man, you
And
got me tripping in this bitch. That nigga ain't slime.
yeah, you definitely got money. Let's see how it goes.
And it's gone.
See how you are doing with your extension that just came out. See if this suspension doesn't turn into a non-paid suspension. But after everything that happened, to post this video, the Grizzlies had to get internal and do something about this. But unfortunately, we've gotten past just team punishment at this point.
Just when I
But
think you couldn't possibly be any dumber,
Jesus.
you go and do something like this.
To self-snitch on yourself and think that this was cute. And oh, by the way, for even more fun and adage to really, unfortunately, I'm going to pile on because it needs to be emphasized in order to make a point. Besides all of the incidents that led to this, besides the utter stupidity of putting yourself on Instagram with your gun flashed, acting a fool, this was, by the way, after Steven Adams, who is not a loud guy. Anyone knows who the centers for the Grizzlies, Steven Adams. He can be a tough dude. He can be, he can be a hard ass, but he's not a vocal guy. He actually, the night before, you cannot make this up, held a team meeting, a players-only team meeting, saying, because their road record is not what it should be, and just behavior-wise, Steven Adams, a usually very quiet, reserved guy, went out of his way to hold a players-only meeting and tell the team, you guys really need to cool it on the road. We need to cool it with some of the off-the-court things that we're doing. And while the whole team heard it and respected it, they all understood most of this was going towards their leader, their best player, one of the best players in the league, in Ja Morant.
When keeping it real goes wrong.
One of the only older guys on the team, I think Steven Adams has at least a genuine understanding of, like, guys, we're second in the West. We have a real shot. Golden State, the defending champs, are teetering. The Eastern Conference is got a couple guys, but they're weak outside of that. We look at the top seed above us in Denver. We got an opportunity to do something really special, to do something that would be pretty historic and would be the first title for the Grizzlies ever. You would be beloved. You're a legend. We have an opportunity. Please stop doing the off-court nonsense that is only going to hurt us and distract us and keep us away from the ultimate goal, which is why we're all here, which is to try to win a ring. And this ding-dong decides to put an Instagram video of himself up with a gun.
I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it.
And just so you know, it's, again, this has gone past anything just like, oh, that sucks, or oh, that's not technically illegal. Not true. That was in Colorado. That was not in Memphis. That was not in South Carolina where he was from. That was in Colorado. And while they love their weed,
I love weed, okay? I love it.
you bringing in a gun that looks like wasn't necessarily one you bought in Colorado. And anyone who's bought a gun knows usually you don't buy one outside of your state, your home state. How did it get there? how did that little gun that you flashed, which kind of looked like a little, if you're going to flash a gun, I'm not saying size always matters, but whatever. It's extremely illegal to have it not only in another state, even Colorado, who's pretty, Yosemite Sam, ping, pang, pong. They do not play as far as, even though they're open carry, if you are under the influence of alcohol, that's a legal no-no. If you brought that gun across state lines, that's a legal no-no. There are certain things Ja Morant snitched on himself doing, and without getting into playing the whole video, just look, though, at the beginning of this. He's flashing and this gun. And some people, by the way, whoever tried to say it's a lighter, oh, it might be one of those, handgun lighters. Do you really think the Memphis Grizzlies, the NBA, and everyone else would have gone this far into the investigation without knowing that that was just a lighter? He flashed his gun. It's exactly what he did. He flashed a gun and showed it on the screen. Let me see if I can get just the quick close-up of it. And let me just play it one more time just so you can see. I'll stop when we get to it because there's no debate what happened. He put himself on. He put himself doing this. It just is what it is. There we go. Flashed it real quick, but you can see it at the beginning of the video. That is illegal as hell if he doesn't come up with some pretty quick excuses on why he did that. So this now what was a 2-game suspension, the more the details are coming out, and now that Colorado police captain has said, even though no crimes were committed at the time, that we do have to look at this now that we have some evidence of there might have been some violations. NBA, by the way, who knows more than they let on. People that know in the NBA will tell you they investigate. They know these guys. They know who they hang with, what they do. They're now looking into this. This has gone into a real situation to where Ja Morant, his brand new contract extension, his endorsements, everything, all because you just wanted to try to keep it real, show some love on Instagram, show how hard you are, which a lot of people also are pointing out.
When keeping it real goes wrong.
Ja ain't really keeping it real. The idea that he's street is apparently being questioned by a lot of people. They're like, bro, you're from a small town in South Carolina, 2-parent home. You ain't even got it like that. The other people are pointing out, too, if you don't have it like that and you flash money and you flash guns and you flash a location of where you're at, keep it up. Find out, as the phrase goes, F around and find out. F around and find out what happens to people who, and there are rappers that are no longer with us. There are other people that, that aren't famous that are no longer with us, that flashed, hey, I think I'm about this life. I got money. I got this. I got chains. I have all this, and I'm right here at this location. See what happens if you keep playing with that fire. So there's a lot to break down with it. We don't know now the definitive timeline if and when Ja Morant will return. He, of course, has released a public statement and an apology. I'm going to change. I'm going to do all this. Okay, good. I mean, I would hope you change. You just, you had a real chance to do something this year. You just signed a significant $190 million reason to not continue this behavior. But the fact is, this is the stuff that patterns will show you. And one more time, I don't like being right about this.
Man, I'm tired of being right.
But a week ago, I was telling you guys, this reminds me, and I'm starting to wonder if he can even, this is a big reality check. This is a big reality check for Ja Morant. Because you really have 2 roads you can go down here. You can still be, considered a great player, get your money, get your shine, do your thing. But if you want to go the road that he at least says he wants to go down, you got to understand the reality check of this situation. Hopefully, I mean, look, I'm not against Ja Morant. I have nothing negative to say other than just some really dumb decisions lately. But let me explain to you kind of what I'm getting at here. The reality check. Life will come at you fast, especially if you don't respect the gifts you are given. I speak a lot in metaphor. Life comes at you fast. I got to show you this. I don't even know where this was, what game, but this is how life can treat you if you don't F around and pay attention.
Let him cook! I said let him cook!
Oh! I hate ankle rolls. I hate them. But one more time, life can be a wide open layup, and the next thing you know, you're on the IR.
Let him cook! I said let him cook!
Oh. Poor bastard. Life can come at you that way. You got to be very careful. And Ja Morant, as of a few weeks ago, it was all good. Everything was great. But sometimes you need to hear things more than you want to hear them. And this was showing that it's not like this was just one thing that Ja Morant did. Again, this last incident showing the gun was the final straw in a few things that should have started showing people that this guy is just not figuring it out. He's not figuring it out. Last week had allegations. He punched a teenager. 4 days prior to that, just 2 weeks ago, he was in a situation where his mom called him for a mall dispute at a Finish Line shoe store. Next thing you know, 9 guys roll up to protect mama.
No kind of saying this. You're wrong. Mama's right.
Yeah, January, there was an incident again with the red dots on a Pacers staff car, making them think that they were pointing laser dots at them. And then now the final incident. But before all of this, just goofy, self-inflicted wounds and behavior, everything was going great. Next thing you know, you roll your ankle and you're in his situation. Life can come at you quick. And there's a lot of people who unfortunately have a hard time with the reality check of the phrase, it's true, excuses and assholes. We all got them. Excuses and buttholes, I'll say next time. We all got them. Everyone's got excuses. Everyone had excuses for Ja Morant. Everyone was trying. I mean, Tony, when he comes back, everyone was trying to explain to me, dude, there was no legal charges. He was defending his mom. That was his entourage that put on the dots. We don't know. The teenager, by the way, his mom, the mama of the teenager, has tried to sue people before. So there kept being this constant, and that's what you see a lot when people are going down the wrong way. As again, someone who has gone through a lot and tells you a lot of times when I'm right.
Man, I'm tired of being right.
To give you a peek on my life, I am currently 18 months sober, and I spent 60 days in a rehabilitation facility because of some poor decisions that I made. And I'll get into more of the details another time. But I do this to make the point and to correlate why this was getting obvious that Ja was going down the wrong path, and why you have to really pay attention to things earlier before the final, nail hits the coffin. When I was in my rehabilitation time, 60 days, when I was listening every day to people, therapy, and you see it afterwards even. Once you get sober, you're still in the community and you still talk to a lot of people. You will hear 3 things that I think are directly correlated to what's going on with Ja Morant, his fan base, and people, maybe young kids right now, who don't get this, who don't want to hear it. You will hear the same 3 things by people who are still currently in an addiction, are currently going down a negative spiral. They will say all these 3 things to you. The first thing they'll say to you, wasn't my fault. Wasn't my fault. It was this. It was that. I got arrested, but it's because I had a flat tire. I did drugs, but it's because my aunt died. I did this. I did that, but it wasn't, my wife left me. My husband left me. My son fell off a building. I mean, and sometimes you can go like, that's a horribly sad story. But the first thing you'll hear people say that don't want to admit they're on a downward spiral, first thing you'll hear from them, it's not my fault. Second thing you'll hear, and this will really drive you, you'll learn eventually as you get stuck in this world like I have, they'll drive you nuts. Second thing you'll hear, you got to understand. You got to understand, man. I grew up in this. The culture I was around I wasn't taught. There's always, you got to understand, I have past trauma. I have future trauma probably coming up. I have anxiety. I am a victim of this. I am a culprit of that. My family upbringing was not what it was supposed to be. I was beaten up every day for 17 years. You will find a lot of people who will tell you, well, it wasn't my fault. And if that doesn't work, well, if it's not my fault, you got to understand why I did it, because of X, Y, Z. Third thing you'll hear, and this is another one that is really telling, and what a lot of Ja Morant fans were telling, I was listening and hearing. Yeah, but I mean, it's not like I'm doing as bad as so-and-so. There's always going to be someone, Just so you know, in life, there's always going to be someone doing worse than you. Though that excuse of that reason why people are like, I don't think you're making the right decisions. And if the first thing you say back is like, yeah, well, I mean, I'm still not, I'm not dead. Yeah, or I still have a job. I still, am doing this. I'm still doing that. I'm not as bad as so-and-so. I'm not as bad as this person. I'm doing better than that person. So in case you either in this yourself, you want to get through certain parts of your life, or you just see anyone that you're worried about, the three things you're going to hear repeatedly until they understand the law of the common denominator, that all of these reasons, they could all be true, will not change the outcome of the path you're going down. It's not my fault. You got to understand, and I'm still doing better than so-and-so. You will hear those over and over, and I heard every one of these with John Morant. Same thing. Oh, it's not his fault. It was security. It was sticking up for his mama. He was doing this. It was the teenagers, looking for lawsuits. No. You got to understand, John Morant is a young kid. He's young. Doesn't matter that, he has an opportunity. Doesn't matter that he just signed a $190 million contract extension. Doesn't matter that he's got endorsement deals and a camp and people around him, and now he's basically got a whole team on his back where he is the leader and he needs to show. He's young. He's 23. He's being a kid. He's just doing little things. You got to understand, it's the age that's the problem. And then we finally got to, well, he hasn't been arrested. He's not going to jail. At least he's still in the league. Hey, he's still, a multiple-time All-Star. He's still one of the richest men in the in the world, as far as if you look at net worth and especially what he's going to get in the next few years. He's got a lot of money. He came from this. He's doing that. I mean, at least he's not arrested or in jail. All of these eventually run thin, and all of these eventually will bite you in your ass, as John Morant unfortunately has found out. The demon will come for you in so many different interesting ways. It's so interesting how much, I call it the demon, the bad, whatever doesn't help you or anyone do what they need to do. It'll try anything. It'll come for you. It'll use your past. It'll use your trauma. It will use outside influences, especially if you get to a John Morant level. It'll use sex. It'll use pressure. It'll use drugs. It'll use whatever it can get you to make those three excuses for yourself. And I'm sorry, I will say this again. He is currently the path. He reminds me so much of Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson, I said it on the last podcast, I will reiterate it again. Allen Iverson was the king of anyone who I just think is a cautionary tale.
When keeping it real goes wrong.
Just someone who could have, hey, at least he was in the finals. At least he took his bad team there. At least he had 41 and the step over of Tyronn Lue in game one. At least he, coming from where he came from, he was arrested as a senior, was able to turn himself into one of the top 50 players of all time. Allen Iverson is one of the most talented dudes I've ever seen, one of the best competitors on the court, and when it was all said and done, he had to file for bankruptcy. He has no rings to his name, and without the Reebok sponsorship, which apparently, I don't know if he was already showing enough signs of immaturity for Reebok to be smarter than even Iverson himself, but that deal where he gets $30 million at 55 years old that they have held on to that he could not touch, and the $1 million he gets per year, whoever, whether it was agent, I'd have to look into who got the details of that, but that was the smartest damn thing anyone could have done for Allen. That was just pure genius because it saved him. Without it, he'd be a cautionary tale. And when I made this comparison last time, it was catching a lot of heat. It's not fair. Even besides the fact they're both small guys in small markets, extremely fun, exciting, athletic dogs on the court, competitors. You're not going to find anyone who plays harder than Allen did or Ja does now, who bleeds for their team, who will play hurt, who will do all the little things. They besides they're in the same, they took a team. Sixers have had success, obviously, in the 80s, but at the time were considered not one of the true threats, able to push them into a stratosphere that maybe most people did not expect, especially with having such a diminutive leader. Throw away all that. It was the same story with Allen his whole damn career. And I even said, I will throw away when you look at this comparison of is John Morant on the same kind of Iverson-ish path, which isn't, in the end horrible, but is it in a way to a ring? Is it as a way to being one of the best leaders and champions and the things that I think Ja says that he wants? I don't know. But you look at Allen's career, and I even said I'll ignore the high school arrest. I'll ignore it. It was something that you could say was racially motivated, wrong place, wrong time, whatever. I will ignore the homophobic rap songs, and it was just besides the fact that it was just garbage. Just a bad song. But I'll ignore that. I'll ignore this, the most famous.
It's not the game. We're talking about practice, man. But we talking about practice, man. What are we talking about? Practice?
I will even ignore that, as bad as it was, as much as people tried to make excuses for it, the fact that the leader of the team did not understand why practice and making your teammates better was important, why setting an example, a la Steven Adams basically saying, hey, man, let's chill with the goofy stuff we're doing on the road, and you go out the next night and act a fool. Besides the fact that usually the best player on your team needs to be first in, last out, be that leader, be that captain. I'll ignore all of that. And the whole excuse of, well, he plays in the game and everything else. I'll ignore even the clothes. I'll ignore the fact, because he had this idea after a while. Iverson just had to be, the counterculture. He had to be the guy who was the stone cold kind of Steve Austin in a way. He really was.
What?
I'm going to dress different. I'm going to talk different. I'm going to walk different. I'm going to act different, influence an entire culture. And now I miss the baggy shirts and the jeans. Do you see what the hell these idiots are wearing? Big Mario boots, goofy ass, Dylan Brooks. We showed the other day Kyle Kuzma looking like he was like part of the moon landing or something. I miss those dress codes. So let's throw all those away. When it came to why, you're hating on Allen, you're not looking at this. In the end, Allen Iverson, even in his good years, constantly beef with coaches, constantly beef with his owners, didn't commit to defense, didn't always commit to the team concept. This is a guy who partied very famously. The more we've gotten away from his career and his being protected, you find out this dude did not exactly go to bed early the night before or train in any way that was considered worthy of the MVP. This is a guy who gambled most of his money away. This is a guy who, during his career, also got kicked out of casinos for things like pissing in trash cans, getting in fights, when you're there. This is a guy who had weed and gun charges. This is a guy who also, the list is significant when it comes to, what did Allen do? The guy who also had domestic violence dispute issues. This is a guy who in the last 5 years of his career went from Denver to Detroit, back to Philly, back all the way out to Turkey, and could not stick anywhere because he was just his ego and still thinking he was 25 and able to get away with certain things, decided that he didn't want to come off the bench. He didn't want to be a team player. And in the end, when we look at Allen Iverson, he ended up with no rings. And I'm sorry, would have been broke if it wasn't for the Reebok deal. Just pissed it all away.
And it's gone.
One of the most talented guys you've ever seen. So if you're a Ja Morant fan and you're not trying to hear me, I don't know what else I need to explain to you or what else I need to point out in the correlation. Ja Morant is, trying to adhere to a certain thing that I don't even think he's about. I don't think he's really about that life, which makes more sense because the fake flexing and posting yourself is significantly indicative of people that really aren't they really ain't about that life.
When keeping it real goes wrong.
But this was just the final, in case you think that all of this conversation is being based on this one thing. We talked about this a week ago. We talked about the fact I don't like where he's going. I don't like the fact that he's getting in fights with teenagers. I don't like the fact that even if it's his mama, that he's rolling 9, 10 deep to threaten a security guard. The idea that laser-pointed sights were put on a window coming out of his camp, whether it was him that did it or not, worries me as a guy who's supposed to be on his way this way, not that way, not the ankle roll, not falling down flat on his face. This is a guy who's supposed to be coasting, supposed to have a layup, just signed the big deal, just pushed his team to a championship contender, and already, look around. Season's probably over.
And it's gone.
I really don't see him getting away with coming back this year. And we will see. Again, I'm telling you, I am right more than I am wrong. I think now with this video, unfortunately, if you're the NBA and you're people investigating, technically what he did was things that were illegal. No one got shot. No one got hurt. In the end, that excuse is just run out of gas. The excuse was already used during the fight. The excuse was already used during the altercation at the mall. The excuse was already used during the Pacer staff, which, oh, by the way, all of that happened in 2 flipping months. That excuse has ran thin, and now it's not even true. The fact is, he did do something illegal, allegedly, if the video is true. He did do things that violate not only just legal issues, but the NBA. Ask Gilbert Arenas if you bring a gun, by the way, to a team facility or on a team plane. How else did that gun get there if he didn't have it with him? Any of those things are going to lead to significant suspensions without pay, and the Grizzlies, who were right there and had all the opportunity in the world, are now up its creek without a paddle. And unfortunately, wasn't his fault. You got to understand he's young. Hey, he hasn't gone to jail. Gives a shit. Season's over. A year, you really could have done it, and I'm telling you right now, you'll find out more as far as the punishment goes. I don't see him getting away with much else. I think the season's over for Memphis, and this is a crossroads. This is an absolute crossroads for Ja Morant. I wish him the best. He said he's hit a new leaf. I really think, you probably could have gotten to that before this.
Oh, good for you.
It usually takes getting caught, unfortunately, when you're in the wrong spin to recognize it. But he says he recognized it. Hopefully he'll be able to put all this behind him. This will be a situation of a guy who could have gone one way and still was able to be this inspirational story of a guy who eventually figured it out, became the champion that he should be, and not, I'm sorry, the repeat of a guy who, for all of his love and everyone that, supports him so much.
It's not the game. We're talking about practice, man. But we talking about practice, man. What are we talking about? Practice?
Cautionary tale. Something to think about as we leave. All right, I am out of here. I will hopefully have T back with me next week. We'll discuss a little bit more of this and everything else going on in the NBA. Tricky Guy Podcast. Remember, excuses, assholes, we all got them. Doesn't always excuse everything. I'm out.